Jinger Duggar reveals Mom Michelle's strange parenting methods while looking back at the family's first TV special. With more than 20 years of reality TV experience under their belts, most of Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar's children ended up growing up on camera. But there's still so much fans never got to see that went on behind the scenes. Jinger Duggar is now opening up about the unusual ways her parents managed to keep so many young children on their best behavior. And although some methods are stranger than others, some actually do make a lot of sense, even for smaller families. Jinger looked back on the Duggars' first TV special. Originally airing on Discovery Health in 2004, 14 Children and Pregnant Again first introduced the Duggar family to audiences. On this week's episode of the Jinger and Jeremy podcast, Jinger looked back at scenes from the special and ended up sharing a lot of interesting details from her childhood in the process. They had to follow Code O, as most of us can probably imagine. Wrangling that many little kids while out in public has to be a challenge. But Jinger said Michelle and Jim Bob had it down to a method called Code O. They'd say Code O, and we'd hop in line in birth order, youngest in the front, oldest in the back, and we would walk around like that. Like a pack of ducks, she said on the podcast. Otherwise, everybody is spread out. You know how hard it is to keep the little two that are walking in our family around, because they'll see a fountain, and they'll be like, let's go splash in the fountain. There was a very specific procedure when it came to loading into the car. Fans who tuned into 19 Kids and Counting know that when all of their kids were still young enough to live at home, that they usually traveled around in a large van, which would make it hard for Jim Bob and Michelle to make seatbelt checks. Instead, when they get into the car, Jim Bob would tell his kids to buckle up, and they had an incentive to buckle those seatbelts as quickly as possible. The first person to say click would get a penny, and then it would add up over time, Jinger explained. It was like a game. Jim Bob and Michelle were methodical about their one-on-one time with the kids. Jinger's parents would take a kid or two along with them anytime they ran an errand or went somewhere outside of the house to get some rare one-on-one time with their children. But at the same time, they had to keep track with a list they kept on the wall or risk someone being left out. They would start with the oldest and work your way down, and they would get to go with mom and dad to whatever errand they were running, she said on the podcast. Though some of these methods do sound odd to those of us who didn't grow up with 18 siblings, Jinger did admit she is stealing some of her parents' tricks when it comes to parenting her own children, Felicity, Evangeline, and newborn Finn. One example is creating an emergency kit to keep in the car that contains items such as a first aid kit, hair ties, hairbrush, probably an extra pair of socks for each kid, underwear. I think I might end up implementing that as well, she said. Jill Duggar says husband Derek is taking a sabbatical from his career as a lawyer. Jill Duggar and her husband, Derek Dillard, have taken a different route in their lives than many of her married sisters. For much of their early marriage, Derek was still in law school, and now the couple is finally getting to enjoy the fruits of his labor. But is his career path changing after all of that hard work? Jill has finally confirmed that Derek is switching things up, at least for now. Rumors about Derek's career began last month. Just under a month ago, critics on Reddit discovered that Derek's LinkedIn profile indicates that he left his job as an assistant district attorney for the state of Oklahoma, a job he's held since 2022 in January. Now, his employment on his profile indicates that he's an attorney at Dillard Law. Is he starting his own law firm? So far, he hasn't shared any updates on his career himself, so critics have been trying to guess what's going on behind the scenes. Now, Jill is setting the record straight. During a Q&A on her Instagram stories, which has since expired, a fan asked if Derek was still working as a lawyer. Derek actually recently left his job of nearly 3 years, prosecuting attorney/AJ in Oklahoma, and is taking a sabbatical period for a while, working on some personal endeavors. A very welcome change of pace for all of us, Jill wrote, according to the Ashley's Reality Roundup. It wasn't all that long ago that Jill and Derek moved for his job. After Derek graduated from law school and passed the bar exam, he and Jill shared a post on their blog announcing that they were moving to a new home near the Oklahoma border. At the time, they wrote that they were moving for a new job Derek recently accepted and are super excited for new adventures. We are sad to say goodbye to our very first home that we bought 3 years ago, but pray it brings much joy to the next family who will get to make memories here, the couple wrote in their post, which has since been deleted. Critics have a lot of thoughts about Derek's personal endeavors. After Jill confirmed that Derek was on sabbatical, critics weighed in on Reddit, and many seemed concerned about what she might have meant when she said Derek was focusing on personal endeavors. If these personal endeavors don't start paying the bills, this change of pace will wear out its welcome real quick, one person wrote. So he doesn't have a job. Why are we surprised? He was an accountant, missionary, underwent training to be a pastor, and now a lawyer, someone else commented. Maybe pilot is next. As someone who has practiced for 20 years, I would love to take a sabbatical, but for some reason the bills have to be paid every month. Anyone I know who left to take time off never went back to law. Joy-Anna Duggar and Austin Forsyth admit they broke Jim Bob's courtship rules. When it comes to dating one of Jim Bob Duggar's daughters, we've heard plenty about just how strict his courtship rules can be. Because the children of the family date with the intent to marry the person they're courting, Jim Bob thoroughly vets any man who's been interested in one of his girls, and even once they get his seal of approval, they have to follow his guidelines. But now, Austin Forsyth is coming clean. He and Joy didn't follow those rules quite as closely as her dad would have liked. Austin appeared on Jinger and Jeremy's podcast this week. While talking with his sister and brother-in-law, Austin opened up about courting Joy-Anna in the early days of their relationship, something he wasn't too familiar with because it wasn't the way his family did things, despite the fact that they were also pretty conservative. But because his family had been close with the Duggars for years, he did know that this was the way they did things, and he was willing to give it a shot. That meant that all of his dates with Joy were chaperoned, though, and that's when they ended up bending the rules. Justin chaperoned most of Joy and Austin's dates. They still found a way to get one-on-one time together if they wanted to have a private conversation. However, even though that was technically against the rules, "We'd tell Justin to go sit in the truck," he said, later adding, "I'd be like, hey, we're going to talk. You go over there, Justin. You go in the next room or whatever." Fortunately, because Justin already knew Austin from their families interacting and had a level of trust and respect, he'd go along with it. Fans have a lot of thoughts about Austin's confession. Fans on a popular Duggar-related subreddit have been discussing this part of the podcast, and they seem to appreciate the confirmation about the broken rules. I am not saying they broke all the rules, but this seems to confirm what some of us believe, that they did more than hold hands prior to marriage, the OP wrote. One commenter wrote, "Glad Austin didn't mention this until after Justin got out of the house. Justin's probably getting an angry phone call from JB right about now." This isn't the first time Joy and Austin have admitted to breaking a courtship rule. When Joy appeared on the Unplanned podcast in October 2024, she admitted that she broke the rule about no hand-holding and no full hugs before engagement after Austin totaled his truck in an accident that was so bad he could have died. "Well, my brother that comes with my dad is like Pop's Joy has been holding onto Austin's arm this whole time. And they're courting. They're not even supposed to be holding hands," Joy said. And Pops looks back kind of like annoyed. He's like, "You should probably let go of his arm." And I'm like looking at my brother like so annoyed. But I was like, whatever, it's fine.